What would you do if your CEO, the man you'd built a billion-dollar company with, betrayed you on your honeymoon? What if that betrayal cost you everything you'd worked for, your dream job, your company, your future? Would you walk away quietly? Would you fight back? Or would you do what I did, destroy everything they'd built and watch their world burn? My name is Kate Sullivan, and this is the story of how I turned the tables on Silicon Valley's golden couple and brought down their $1.5 billion fraud with nothing but the truth and perfect timing. If you're ready for a story of betrayal, revenge, and ultimate justice, then show me some love by hitting that subscribe button and smashing the like button, because you're about to witness the most satisfying corporate takedown in tech history. Kate, this company is your brainchild. Grant Colton raised his champagne flute, his presidential smile gleaming under the conference room's crystal chandelier. The entire Everon Technologies board turned toward me, their applause echoing off glass walls that overlooked Silicon Valley's glittering skyline. I should have felt victorious. After 3 grueling years transforming Grant's half-baked startup idea into a $1.5 billion IPO contender, this moment represented everything I'd sacrificed. My social life, my health, countless weekends debugging code and crafting investor presentations that made grown venture capitalists weep with joy. To Kate Sullivan, Grant continued, the strategic mastermind who turned our garage dreams into tomorrow's reality. The irony wasn't lost on me. While Grant played the charismatic frontman, charming investors with his Harvard MBA swagger and perfect jawline, I was the one burning midnight oil in the basement, architecting the revolutionary algorithms that would reshape cloud computing forever. But standing there, watching Grant's wife Paige snap Instagram stories of the celebration, something felt wrong. Her camera lingered on me longer than necessary, her smile too sharp, too calculating for a simple congratulations. "Enjoy your honeymoon, Kate," Grant whispered as the applause died down. "You've more than earned it." I didn't know those words would become my epitaph at Everon Technologies. 10 days. That's all I asked for. 10 measly days in the Bahamas with Nate, my high school sweetheart who'd waited patiently through my Silicon Valley obsession. We'd postponed this honeymoon twice already, first for the Series C funding round, then for a last-minute presentation to Goldman Sachs. "They'll survive without you for 10 days, Nate had said, booking our flights before I could protest. "The company won't collapse because Kate Sullivan took a vacation." Day 3 of paradise shattered that illusion. I was lounging poolside, actually relaxing for the first time in months, when my phone buzzed with a company-wide email. The sender made my blood freeze. Grant Colton, CEO. Subject, Exciting Leadership Edition. Welcome our new Chief Strategy Officer. My fingers trembled as I opened the message. The words blurred together at first, my brain refusing to process what I was reading. "We're thrilled to announce Paige Colton as Everon's new Chief Strategy Officer, effective immediately. Paige brings fresh perspective and innovative social media expertise that will elevate our IPO positioning." Paige. Grant's wife. The woman who'd spent our last company retreat complaining about the Wi-Fi while I worked 18-hour days preparing our investor deck. My phone slipped from numb fingers, clattering onto the concrete. Nate looked up from his book, concern creasing his features. "Kate. What's wrong?" I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. They'd given my job, my creation, to an Instagram influencer. "You're overreacting," Nate pleaded as I threw clothes into my suitcase. "Maybe it's temporary. Maybe Grant has a plan." I whirled around, fury replacing shock. "A plan? Nate, I built that company from nothing. Every algorithm, every strategic partnership, every investor relationship, that was me. And they handed it to someone whose biggest accomplishment is selling teeth-whitening kits to teenagers. The next flight to San Francisco left in 4 hours. I booked it without hesitation. During the endless flight, I replayed every interaction with Paige, searching for clues I'd missed. Her seemingly innocent questions about our intellectual property. Her sudden interest in attending technical meetings. That comment at the Christmas party, "You're too sharp to waste your life chasing boardrooms, Kate. A woman like you should be building something of her own." Had this been planned all along? Had I been played by Silicon Valley's most photogenic power couple? The plane's engines hummed beneath me as I stared out at endless clouds, my reflection ghost-like in the window. 29 years old, and I'd just learned the hardest lesson in tech: trust no one, especially those who toast your success. By the time we landed at SFO, my shock had crystallized into something harder, sharper. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. I knew where all the bodies were buried. Walking into Everon's lobby felt like entering a mausoleum. Same sleek design, same motivational posters, but everything felt hollow, artificial. The receptionist's smile faltered when she saw me. "Kate. I thought you were on my honeymoon." I kept walking toward the elevator. Change of plans. The executive floor buzzed with nervous energy. Conversation stopped mid-sentence as I passed. Colleagues who'd celebrated my wedding 3 weeks ago now avoided eye contact. The betrayal wasn't just Grant's, it was institutional. Grant's office door stood ajar. Through the gap, I could see him gesticulating wildly on a phone call, probably sweet-talking another investor. The corner office, my corner office, now displayed a fresh nameplate: Paige Colton, Chief Strategy Officer. She sat behind my desk, perfectly manicured fingers typing on my laptop, reviewing shared project files from our company cloud drive. IT had granted her full access to everything. When she noticed me in the doorway, her expression shifted from surprise to something resembling pity. "Kate. You're back early." She stood, smoothing her designer dress. "I hope you don't mind. Grant thought it would be best if I settled in while you were away. Easier transition and all." "Transition?" I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. "To what, exactly?" Paige's smile never wavered. "Well, to your new role, of course. Grant has some wonderful ideas about restructuring the team. You'll love what we have planned." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. They'd stolen my position and expected gratitude for the scraps. Grant found me an hour later, cleaning out my desk drawers. His approach was practiced, calculated, the same tone he used with disappointed investors. "Kate, I'm glad you're back. We need to talk." He guided me to a smaller conference room, away from prying eyes. His performance was Oscar-worthy: furrowed brow, clasped hands, the perfect portrait of reluctant leadership making tough decisions. "This wasn't personal," he began. "The board felt we needed a different approach for the IPO. Someone with social media influence, a fresh face for the millennial market." A fresh face. I let the words hang in the air. "With zero business experience. Paige has instincts. Natural marketing genius. And frankly, Kate, you've been burning out. This gives you a chance to step back, focus on what you do best, the technical side." The technical side. He was offering me a demotion wrapped in corporate speak, expecting me to smile and thank him for the opportunity. "It's just business, Kate. You'll always have a place here." That phrase would haunt him later. Just business. As if 3 years of building his empire meant nothing. As if friendship, loyalty, and partnership were quarterly expenses to be optimized away. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "I understand completely." Grant's relief was palpable. "I knew you'd see reason. Now, let's talk about your new role." But I wasn't listening anymore. My mind was elsewhere, remembering something I'd seen before leaving for the Bahamas. That evening, alone in my apartment, I powered up my personal laptop and accessed Everon's internal server. My administrative privileges hadn't been revoked yet. I was still officially in transition support phase for the handover, a common practice to smooth executive exits. I navigated to a folder I'd noticed weeks ago but never investigated: archive_legacy_projects. Buried deep in subdirectories, I found it, a file marked prototype, final. My pulse quickened. This wasn't one of our current projects. The timestamp showed it predated Everon's founding by 6 months. Curious, I opened it. What I found made my blood turn to ice. The revolutionary cloud computing algorithm that formed Everon's core technology, our breakthrough innovation, that had investors throwing money at us, wasn't ours. Every line of code, every optimization technique, every elegant solution I'd admired and refined bore the digital fingerprints of another company, Micronex Labs. I scrolled through documentation, my horror growing with each page. This wasn't inspiration or parallel development. This was wholesale theft. Someone had lifted Micronex's proprietary code and rebranded it as Everon's original creation. My hands shook as I downloaded everything onto an encrypted drive. How had Grant obtained this? When? And more importantly, did he know I'd discovered it? A new email notification popped up. Grant, sent 20 minutes ago. Kate, please see me first thing tomorrow. We need to discuss your access privileges. Security protocols, you understand. They were going to lock me out. I worked through the night, following digital breadcrumbs deeper into Everon's hidden history. What I discovered painted a picture of systematic deception that made my termination look like a paper cut. Email threads from 2 years ago revealed Grant's correspondence with a former Micronex employee. Jake Hoffman, now Everon's head of development. The messages were cryptic but damning, package delivered as discussed. Documentation clean. No traces back to source. Jake, excellent work. Our little secret stays buried. By the way, that consulting fee we discussed? Consider it a retention bonus. Grant more digging revealed Jake's employment history. He'd been fired from Micronex for policy violations just 3 months before joining Everon. The timeline was perfect. Steal the code, get fired to cover tracks, then surface at Grant's startup with their revolutionary breakthrough. But the smoking gun came in a folder marked legal_precautions. Grant had actually researched the theft's legal implications, consulting with a shady risk management consultant about intellectual property laws and statute of limitations. One memo made my skin crawl. As long as we can prove substantial modifications and independent development, original source becomes irrelevant. Key is maintaining clean documentation and ensuring no former Micronex employees can establish direct connections. Risk consultant Grant hadn't just stolen technology, he'd engineered the perfect crime. I copied everything to multiple drives, my lawyer brain cataloging evidence like courtroom exhibits. Transaction records, email metadata, code comparison analysis. Enough ammunition to destroy Everon's IPO and send Grant to federal prison. Dawn crept through my windows as I finished compiling the dossier. In 12 hours, I'd gone from betrayed employee to holder of corporate secrets worth billions. Walking into Grant's office the next morning required Academy Award-level acting. I arranged my features into defeated resignation, shoulders slumped just enough to suggest acceptance without appearing pathetic. Kate, thanks for coming in early. Grant's smile was sympathetic but impatient. I know yesterday was difficult, but I think you'll be excited about what we have planned. Paige sat in the corner, her presence unnecessary but symbolic. They wanted me to see the new power structure, to understand my place in their hierarchy. First, we need to discuss your system access, Grant continued. For security reasons, we're implementing new protocols. Your administrative privileges will be transferred to department heads. Of course, I murmured. Security first. Exactly. And your new role, senior technical consultant, will focus on optimizing existing systems rather than strategic planning. Better work-life balance, less stress. They were neutering me systematically, reducing me from architect to maintenance worker. But I nodded along, asking the right questions, expressing appropriate gratitude. There is one thing, I said carefully. Some of my personal projects are mixed in with company files. Would it be possible to review them before the access transfer? Grant's eyes flickered, the first crack in his composure. Personal projects? Code experiments, algorithm sketches. Nothing proprietary, just my own tinkering. I'd hate to lose years of work. He relaxed. Of course. Take whatever time you need. Jake can help you sort through everything. Jake Hoffman. The thief who delivered Micronex's code. I wondered if he knew his emails were sitting on my hard drive. The next 2 weeks were theatrical mastery. I played the role of loyal soldier perfectly, attending meetings, taking notes, smiling through Paige's bumbling attempts at strategy. She'd turned our investor presentations into social media campaigns, replacing technical specifications with hashtag strategies. We need to make cloud computing sexy, she announced during one particularly painful session. Think Instagram meets infrastructure. Hashtag cloud life, hashtag data dreams, hashtag tech goddess. I bit my tongue until it bled. Meanwhile, I was building the case that would destroy them. Late nights in coffee shops, I contacted cybersecurity experts to verify code theft allegations. I reached out to former Micronex employees, carefully probing about their stolen technology. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Dr. Patricia Su, Micronex's former CTO. She'd been suspicious about Everon's breakthrough for months but lacked proof. When I showed her the comparison analysis, her reaction was explosive. That's our code, she said, reviewing my documentation. Every optimization, every error correction, we spent 2 years perfecting that algorithm. Grant Colton is a thief. Dr. Su connected me with Micronex's legal team. They'd been preparing their own investigation but needed concrete evidence. I had everything they required and more. We can file within 48 hours, their lead attorney explained. The timing is perfect. Right before their IPO roadshow. Maximum damage, minimum escape routes. Justice was taking shape, but I needed one final element, media coverage. A lawsuit could be buried or delayed. Public humiliation would be permanent. The evening before Everon's IPO roadshow, Grant threw a celebration at his Palo Alto mansion. The entire company was invited, employees, investors, board members. A last hurrah before taking the company public. I almost didn't attend, but appearances mattered. The loyal soldier needed to play her part until the very end. The party was pure Silicon Valley excess, celebrity chef catering, tech journalists mingling with venture capitalists, champagne flowing like venture capital in 2021. Grant held court by the pool, regaling listeners with the Everon origin story, carefully edited to remove any mention of stolen code. It all started with a vision, he proclaimed, gesturing toward the mansion's smart home displays. Creating technology that would democratize cloud computing for the next generation. Paige stood beside him, radiant in her designer gown, playing the role of supportive wife and strategic genius. She'd been giving interviews all week, positioning herself as the heart of Everon's innovation. The future is social, she told a TechCrunch reporter. Our algorithms don't just process data, they understand human connection. I circulated through the crowd, accepting condolences for my transition with practiced grace. Everyone knew I'd been demoted, but Silicon Valley politeness demanded we pretend otherwise. At midnight, as the party wound down, Grant found me on the terrace overlooking the valley's twinkling lights. I'm glad you came tonight, Kate. Despite everything, you'll always be part of the Everon family. I raised my champagne flute in a final toast. To family, I said. He smiled, completely unaware that I'd just bid him farewell. At 6 a.m. Pacific time, I hit send on 3 emails that would detonate Grant's empire. The first went to Micronex's legal team, 40 pages of evidence documenting the theft of their proprietary code, complete with email threads, timestamp analysis, and expert testimony. Their lawsuit would be filed within hours. The second went to the SEC's Enforcement Division. A detailed report alleging securities fraud, insider trading, and intellectual property theft in connection with Everon's upcoming IPO. Federal investigators would begin preliminary inquiries immediately. The third went to every major tech journalist in Silicon Valley, an exclusive story about the dark side of unicorn startups, complete with leaked documents and insider testimony from a whistleblower. I copied my lawyer on everything, ensuring my legal protection as a whistleblower reporting corporate fraud. Then I powered down my laptop, made coffee, and waited for the fireworks to begin. The first explosion came at 7:23 a.m. TechCrunch's push notification lit up my phone. Breaking, Everon Technologies hit with $400 million lawsuit hours before IPO launch. By 7:45, the story had spread across every major tech outlet. Bloomberg, Wired, Ars Technica. Everyone was running variations of the same devastating headline. The stolen code allegations were trending on Twitter. #EveronGate became the morning's hottest hashtag. My phone buzzed with calls from reporters seeking comment. I ignored them all, watching the stock market futures react to the news. Everon's pre-IPO valuation was cratering in real time. At 8:15, Grant called. I let it ring. By 8:30, he'd called 17 times. The tsunami was just beginning. The morning news cycle was brutal. Every financial network led with the Everon scandal. CNBC brought in experts to analyze the legal implications. Fox Business questioned how the IPO had proceeded without proper due diligence. But the most damaging coverage came from an unexpected source: social media. Paige's own Instagram followers turned against her. Comment sections filled with mockery about her strategic genius being built on stolen technology. Memes appeared faster than her social media team could delete them. #TechThief and #influencerfraud trended globally. The schadenfreude was intoxicating. At 10 a.m., Everon's board held an emergency meeting. I watched from a coffee shop across the street as black cars deposited grim-faced investors at the building's entrance. The IPO roadshow had been cancelled indefinitely. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake Hoffman: "We need to talk. Now." I deleted it without responding. The SEC statement came at 11:30. The Securities and Exchange Commission has confirmed it is reviewing allegations of securities fraud and intellectual property theft at Everon Technologies. The Commission takes these matters seriously and will pursue all appropriate enforcement actions. Grant's empire was burning, and he'd supplied the gasoline himself. But the real ion was yet to come. I'd scheduled one final surprise for noon, a follow-up email to tech journalists containing Jake Hoffman's complete correspondence with Grant, including their discussions about burying the theft. The evidence would be impossible to deny or spin. Grant's own words would become his epitaph. At 11:58, I clicked send and watched Silicon Valley's golden boy become its newest pariah. The Jake Hoffman emails detonated like a nuclear bomb across the tech ecosystem. Every major outlet ran banner headlines featuring Grant's own words about burying evidence and maintaining clean documentation. The most damaging quote spread like wildfire: "As long as we control the narrative, nobody will question our breakthrough. Kate's too loyal to ask uncomfortable questions, and the VCs are too greedy to care about origins." Grant Colton, the arrogance was breathtaking. He'd not only stolen Micronex's technology, he'd mocked my loyalty while planning to discard me. Within hours, Everon's investors began jumping ship. Sequoia Capital released a statement re-evaluating their position pending investigation outcomes. Andreessen Horowitz went further, publicly calling for new leadership and complete transparency. The venture capital community operated on reputation and relationships. Grant had become radioactive overnight. At 2 p.m., Everon's stock ticker, which should have debuted that morning, remained dark. The IPO was officially postponed pending SEC investigation. $1.5 billion in market capitalization had vanished before it ever existed. Legal experts on Bloomberg analyzed the potential criminal charges: wire fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy, theft of trade secrets. Grant was looking at federal prison time, not just civil liability. But the personal destruction was equally devastating. Tech blogs published exposés about Grant's Stanford networking groups, his exclusive country club memberships, his appearances at industry conferences. The same connections that had built his career were now abandoning him publicly. Paige's Instagram account went private after death threats from angry retail investors. Her influencer career, built on aspirational lifestyle content, was finished. Who wants product recommendations from a corporate criminal's wife? The fall from Silicon Valley royalty to pariah was complete. I ordered another coffee and savored the view. By day's end, Everon's Palo Alto headquarters resembled a crime scene. FBI agents carried boxes of evidence while employees streamed out with their personal belongings. The corporate death spiral was accelerating beyond anyone's control. Grant's resignation letter appeared on the company website at 4:47 p.m. Effective immediately, I am stepping down as CEO of Everon Technologies to focus on addressing recent allegations. While I maintain my innocence, the company deserves leadership that can guide it through these challenging times. The statement was legal boilerplate, devoid of the charisma that had once charmed investors and employees alike. Even in defeat, Grant couldn't resist portraying himself as the noble sacrifice protecting his company. But Everon was already dead. The stolen code formed the foundation of every product, every patent, every revenue stream. Without it, the company was an empty shell with billion-dollar liabilities and zero assets. Employees updated LinkedIn profiles and activated job search networks. The talent drain began immediately, engineers, product managers, marketing directors all fleeing the sinking ship. By week's end, Everon would be a ghost town. The human cost was real and devastating. Hundreds of innocent employees would lose jobs, stock options would become worthless, and career trajectories would be derailed. I felt sympathy for them. They'd been pawns in Grant's game just like me. But my sympathy for Grant and Paige was non-existent. They'd shown no mercy when betraying me. They deserved none in return. At 6 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Silicon Valley Legal District. Kate Sullivan. This is Agent Phillips, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to speak with you about the Everon Technologies investigation. The federal cavalry had arrived. The FBI interview took place in a sterile conference room that smelled of industrial coffee and broken dreams. Agent Phillips was a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who'd clearly seen every variation of Silicon Valley fraud. Ms. Sullivan, you've provided compelling evidence of intellectual property theft and securities fraud. Walk me through your discovery process. I detailed everything, the hidden files, the email chains, Jake Hoffman's role, Grant's legal consultations about covering up the theft. The agents took detailed notes, occasionally requesting clarification about technical aspects. Were you aware of any other employees who might have known about the stolen code? Agent Phillips asked. Jake Hoffman definitely knew. He was the one who delivered it from Micronex. As for others, I paused, considering. Grant's inner circle was small. Maybe his assistant, possibly the CTO. But most employees were kept in the dark. And your own role in the company's early development? Were you involved in any acquisition decisions or technology sourcing? I focused on product development and strategic planning, I clarified. I had no part in early acquisition decisions or technology sourcing. That was Grant's domain entirely. The questioning continued for 3 hours. They wanted to understand my motivations, my access to evidence, my timeline for discovery. I answered honestly, emphasizing my shock at discovering the theft and my obligation to report corporate fraud. One final question, Agent Phillips said, closing her notebook. Did you have any personal relationship with Grant or Paige Colton that might have influenced your decision to come forward? I smiled grimly. They stole my job while I was on my honeymoon. That influenced my timing, not my decision. The decision was made the moment I discovered they'd built a billion-dollar fraud on stolen technology. Agent Phillips nodded. Thank you for your cooperation, Ms. Sullivan. We'll be in touch as the investigation proceeds. Walking out of the federal building, I felt a strange mix of relief and anticipation. The wheels of justice were turning, but slowly. Grant's reckoning was just beginning. 6 months later, the legal dominoes continued falling. Micronex's lawsuit had evolved into a complex multi-party litigation involving Everon, Grant personally, Jake Hoffman, and 3 venture capital firms that had invested in stolen technology. The financial carnage was staggering. Everon had burned through its remaining cash defending lawsuits while generating zero revenue. Bankruptcy filing was inevitable. The company existed only as a legal entity distributing liability among defendants. Grant's personal finances were equally devastating. Legal fees had consumed his liquid assets while frozen accounts prevented him from accessing Everon's stock options. The Palo Alto mansion went on the market, followed by the Marin County vacation home and his collection of vintage Porsches. Paige's fall was equally spectacular. Her influencer career had imploded completely. Brands wouldn't touch anyone associated with corporate fraud. She'd attempted a comeback as a reformed entrepreneur, launching a consulting business for authentic leadership, but found zero clients willing to hire the wife of Silicon Valley's most notorious thief. The criminal investigation progressed methodically. Federal prosecutors were building cases for wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. Grant's lawyers were pushing for a plea deal, but prosecutors wanted cooperation against other potential schemes in the venture capital ecosystem. Jake Hoffman had already flipped, providing detailed testimony about the code theft in exchange for reduced charges. His cooperation was devastating: emails, recorded conversations, documentary evidence of the systematic fraud. But the most satisfying development was personal. 3 different venture capital firms had reached out, interested in backing my new startup. Word had spread through Silicon Valley's networks. Kate Sullivan was the strategist who'd exposed Grant Colton's fraud and walked away clean. My reputation as an ethical operator in an industry plagued by scandal was pure gold. Phoenix Dynamics felt like the perfect name for my new company. Rising from the ashes of Everon's destruction, built on legitimate innovation rather than stolen technology. My first investor meeting took place in the same Palo Alto conference room where Grant had once toasted my contributions to his empire. The irony was delicious. "Kate, your reputation precedes you," said Jennifer Martinez, senior partner at Redwood Ventures. "In an industry desperate for ethical leadership, you represent something rare, genuine integrity combined with strategic brilliance." The pitch was simple: enterprise security solutions built from scratch, with transparent development processes and bulletproof intellectual property protection. Everything Everon should have been, minus the theft and fraud. Given current market conditions and your track record, we're prepared to offer Series A funding at a $50 million valuation, Jennifer continued. But we want exclusive rights to Series B participation. Other firms made similar offers. By week's end, I'd secured $15 million in initial funding with commitments for additional rounds. The venture capital community was eager to back the woman who'd exposed their biggest fraud scandal. Building the team was equally satisfying. Several former Everon employees reached out, eager to work for a company they could trust. Dr. Patricia Su left Micronex to join as CTO, bringing deep expertise in cloud security architecture. "Working with you feels like justice," she said during our first team meeting. "We're building what Everon pretended to be." 6 months later, Phoenix Dynamics had secured its first major client, the Department of Defense, seeking secure cloud infrastructure for classified operations. The contract was worth $30 million annually, more revenue than Everon had ever generated legitimately. Grant's stolen empire had become my legitimate success story. 2 years after that devastating honeymoon betrayal, I stood on the balcony of Phoenix Dynamics' San Francisco headquarters, watching the sunset paint the bay in shades of gold and crimson. Our IPO filing would be submitted next week, a real IPO, built on real innovation, backed by legitimate revenue streams. The Everon scandal had become Silicon Valley legend. Harvard Business School taught case studies about corporate fraud and whistleblower protection. Stanford's ethics program used Grant's emails as examples of how not to conduct business. Grant himself had accepted a plea deal, 5 years federal prison for conspiracy and wire fraud, plus $50 million in restitution to Micronex. Paige had divorced him 6 months ago, taking half of his remaining assets and disappearing from public life entirely. Jake Hoffman served 18 months and now worked at a coding bootcamp, teaching basic programming to career changers. His fall from elite Silicon Valley engineer to community college instructor was complete. The personal victory felt sweeter than any professional achievement. They'd tried to erase me on my honeymoon, expecting grateful silence in exchange for scraps from their stolen empire. Instead, I'd rewritten the ending entirely. My phone buzzed with a notification from LinkedIn. Grant had updated his profile, seeking new opportunities in technology consulting. His profile picture showed a man aged beyond his years, wearing an orange jumpsuit from his prison photography session. I smiled and deleted the notification. Some stories end with redemption and forgiveness. This wasn't one of them. They betrayed me on paradise beaches while toasting champagne stolen from better companies. I'd buried their billion-dollar dream and built my own empire on the ruins. In Silicon Valley, where disruption is religion and innovation is worship, I'd disrupted the disruptors and innovated my own justice. The revenge was complete, but the success was just beginning. So there you have it. The true story of how a honeymoon betrayal became billion-dollar justice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting mad, it's getting even, then getting ahead. What do you think? Was my revenge justified, or did I go too far? Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story of corporate karma resonated with you, smash that like button to let me know. Share it with someone who needs to hear that justice sometimes does prevail. And if you want more stories of people who refused to be victims and fought back against the odds, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Thanks for following me on this journey from betrayal to triumph. Until next time, remember, in a world full of Grant Coltons, be a Kate Sullivan.